Hi, I'm Grant, and I've released an album as well as multiple singles with my band. And there's a lot of debate among artists and bands on which is better. Should you release albums, singles, bit of both? So today I'm gonna go through the advantages of each and talk about my experiences with releasing albums and releasing singles. So albums and also EPs, the longer form of listening to music, they're awesome. If an album's done well, it can feel like watching a good movie or TV show. So in other words, the opposite of the final season of the Umbrella Academy. Fuck, what the hell were they doing there? Having a collection of roughly 10 songs that all fit together in some way, almost like painting a picture together or creating a story. Like each song stands on their own, but when you bring them together in a collection like an album, they almost enhance each other. Albums are also a great way if you want to listen to music for an extended period of time. I mean, an EP is literally short for extended play, and album and LP is long play. So naturally they're there for like, if you want to listen to an artist or get a vibe, instead of just listening to like a 3-minute song, you get like 30 minutes to an hour worth of music from that artist. So many times when I want to sit down and listen to an album from start to finish, and in the end it's like a sense of completion, like you've taken the whole thing in as one. And you can't really get that from just a single song necessarily, unless it's like 50 minutes long. Looking at you, dope smoker. And from an artist's perspective, making an album isn't only like really fun to do, but it's also really gratifying and fulfilling. When writing songs for an album, it's more a thing of each section of the song is another building block for like this entire thing. It's not just each section completes like 20% of a song. It's like each section of a song is now 2% of an album or whatever. With each building block that you place and you build up, you eventually get this big picture where everything just comes together perfectly, and it's so nice knowing like each little step that you took to get to this. When writing music, you obviously get a bunch of different ideas of things you want to use in a song, different things that all fit within the same theme or whatever. But that's really hard to like board on and expand each idea within like a 3-minute window for a single song. Whereas with an album, you can use different ideas in different songs and it still like plays in the same theme as the same final product. You don't have to worry about forcing all of these ideas going from this to this to this to this to this. Okay, now for the downsides of an album. Big one is time. It takes a lot of time. You need to invest a lot of time and effort and skill and things into completing an album, which if you're a starting band, that's not necessarily what you want to do. Because when starting out, you want to like constantly be like busy. You want to keep giving content and content and content, where if you're making an album, there's going to be like a long period of like you're preparing the content and then releasing it and then nothing. Unless of course you're constantly like playing shows every week, but chances are if you're starting out, that's not the case. If you don't have a super dedicated fan base, nobody's gonna bother listening to your album. I had this experience when I released DFE's album. Granted, I did release it while like there wasn't even really a band. It was kind of just like me at the time, but still I think it got like 40 streams in the first week across 9 songs. So that's like 4 streams per song roughly. That means 4 people listen to the entire thing. So it's not great doing an album if you want to grow a fan base and actually get people to listen to your music, at least at the start. However, if you're just making an album for yourself and you're not too concerned about like growing your audience and getting fans and just like making an album to prove to yourself you're making an album or as a fun challenge or whatever, then go for it. That was like partially the mindset I had going into making my first album. There was like no expectation, no fans. It was like just starting from scratch, and it was such a fun experience as well, like challenging myself, seeing what I'm capable of doing musically and things. Also, if you're making an album, you need to have like a central theme for it. All the songs need to connect in some way, because if you're just gonna like throw a bunch of random songs that you wrote at some point on your album and just like release it without any cohesion or anything to it, why not just like release singles? There's more advantages to it. I'll get there in a second. And then just like create a playlist for it, because that's essentially what you're doing if you're just like throwing a bunch of random songs on it. Okay, moving on to singles. So far DFE has released 3 singles with another one on the way coming really soon. Wink wink nudge nudge. So the biggest advantage of focusing on a single instead of an album is quality over quantity. So whereas with an album you're gonna have a lot of songs, with a single you're gonna have fewer songs, but you're gonna have more time and energy to focus onto getting that song to sound as good as it possibly can. And I mean, having a song as good as possible is gonna like give more replay value to it, and the chances are gonna be higher of getting a listener to add that to their playlist, getting more streams for that specific song, instead of having an overall like large amount of streams over an album, but like very few for each song. Now you're gonna have like that big number of streams on a single song. So it's kind of like focusing everything onto one point. So releasing singles makes it easier to get more content out. So for each single, that's like the song itself with like an album cover, a visualizer, lyric video, music video, all that's like you can systematically be releasing that, and that's more content for you. Also, I need to like emphasize how important a good cover art is. With an album, you're only gonna have like the one cover art for the entire album, but with singles you can create unique cover art for each song you release, and that's gonna like very much spice up your visual presence and give you as an artist or band more character. I feel like a lot of bands and artists starting out are underestimating how powerful like a good visual image can be. We live in an age where the visuals of a band or artist is just as important as the music. Like whenever I want to get to know like a new band better, I always go to the discography and check out their album art just to get like a visual vibe. I want to like know what I need to imagine in my head while I'm listening to their music, and that obviously like as a fan brings me closer to the band and creates more attachment. So the singles allow you to like stretch out releasing your content, so you're constantly offering something. It's not just like dumping everything there at once and then nothing. It's like here's a little bit, here's a little bit, here's a little bit. You're constantly active that way, so it's like you're continuously like growing your fan base just by like giving a little bit. Whereas like throwing a bunch there, if that like bunch is good, then like you're gonna get some fans, but then after that, nothing, no growth. So especially starting out, it's really important to get that constant flow of like content going. There is a downside to singles though, and that's like if the single sucks or people don't like it for whatever reason, then there's nothing really surrounding it that can really redeem it. Whereas with an album, if like one song on it is just like kind of filler, kind of meh, then like there's probably gonna be a better song on the album for people to go to, and that kind of just like compensates for the less good songs. Whereas with a single, if it's not great, that entire release is gonna be However, if it's a good single, you can put all your efforts into marketing it and just like put all your focus there. Whereas with an album, if you want to market the entire album, you're gonna have to include the good and the not so good stuff as well. The other downside to singles, especially when you're starting out, is if you only have like one single released, then there's nothing that new listeners could latch onto besides that single. So if they want more from you, there's not really going to be anything else besides that single, because like you don't have a large list of songs for them to listen through to get to know you better. They kind of just have to like hope and trust that whatever you do next is going to be just as good as the single. This happens to me quite a lot, like as a music listener. I find all these new artists with like a song that I like, and then I want to go check out the rest of their stuff, and then it's like, okay, they've got other stuff, except they don't. Like I've gone to artist profiles where they have one song, which is really nice. That's what got me to check out their profile and stuff. But then they've got like a demo version of that song and like a live version or whatever. Why are you as like this small artist releasing a demo version? For who's that for? I think like a lot of people just want to like release shit for the sake of releasing it instead of going for like the quality control kind of thing. That's like the whole big advantage of doing singles, is like quality over quantity. Nobody cares about the demo version of a song if you got like a proper better one anyway. Like I understand once you're like a big band, like I know MCR did this with like the 10th anniversary of the Black Parade or whatever. They released like a bunch of demo tracks of like the initial versions of the song. As like a devoted fan, it's really cool to see like how it started and how the song changed and stuff. But I mean, you're an artist with like 10 monthly listeners. Why are you doing this? You're just making yourself look worse by releasing an inferior version of a song. It was a stupid tangent, but I needed to get that off my chest. So that's kind of my view about what's good and bad about albums and singles. So what do I think? What's the best way for artists and bands to go forward? I think actually it might... You can probably tell there's like a lot of bias throughout this video of which one I prefer, but I think it's actually a bit of both. When starting out, I wouldn't suggest releasing an album unless you do it like I did it, and just to like lay the groundwork and just have a ball rolling already. An album can just be useful to like get a general idea of like which direction the band needs to aim towards and shoot at or whatever. But it shouldn't be to like grow a fan base. It was a fun personal challenge. I'm really proud of the album and like all the planning and things that's surrounding it and went into it. And sure, even like after releasing more singles and drastically growing the fan base compared to back when the album released, some people have gone back and listened to some of the songs from the album, but only one of them really like gain the same amount of traction as our singles would. So that's 1 out of 9. So I don't think it's really worth going for an album just like right out the gate. And when in the beginning stages as well, it's really important to just like constantly keep content coming and being as consistent as possible, to look like you're busy, to look like you're on that grind, and that's gonna like open so many more opportunities with venues and booking agents and things like that as well. So keep pushing singles until you've got like a dedicated enough following, and once you have that following, you can just like give him some dessert with an album and just like have that payoff. How most big artists would do it is release a few singles that would be on the album leading up to the album's release, creating that anticipation and that hype, and then when the album releases, there's a payoff or disappointment if it's kind of shit. This random comment on Reddit I found puts it pretty well. I think it's the most fun when bands make an album and release single tracks of it leading up to the release. There's nothing better than listening to a cohesive album, but low singles can be fun sometimes. This guy fucks. He probably does. So basically, release singles when starting out. Once you've got like a devoted following, pop that album, baby. So those are my views on it and from my experience and stuff. Let me know as like a listener or an artist or band or whatever, just like your thoughts on it. Comment down below, interested in hearing them. Do you agree with my take? Do you think albums should be the only way to go? Do you think like there's no future for albums at all and it's only gonna be singles because everyone's attention span is getting less and less and less and people can't listen to a song for more than a minute anymore? Ugh. Anyway, go listen to DFE's music, and if you like it, subscribe, I guess. Okay, bye.